Hey everybody, welcome, welcome to Hidden Horror. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate that. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, what's up? Happy Halloween. How y'all doing today? How y'all doing? I have another glove, but I can't work the computer if I have both gloves on. But I just want to show you guys my costume today. I'm Bones. So I have my bones. I have my bones everywhere. I have my light. I have my bone glasses. Check me out. Check me out. How am I doing? How's everybody? I got my gloves. So you guys know I'm a huge Halloween fan. And of course, I'm getting ready today to see the trick-or-treaters. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see them. And they check my costume out. I check their costume out. And I give them candy, chips, and all of that. They get to see all of our Halloween decorations. So it's pretty cool. So anyway, happy Halloween, everybody. So I'm gonna sit some of this stuff down so I can focus on this video. I just wanted you to check me out. Got my Halloween bracelets on. I got my skeleton earrings on. I'm ready for Halloween. But today I'm here because I wanted to go um, over one of the cases that happened back in the summer of 2024. There were 6 deaths in Thailand, and they were allegedly from cyanide poisoning. And I've never found any type of articles written about what happened. No follow up, no investigative work, really. So I want to talk more about it. I want to go back. I want to revisit. I want to talk about cyanide. I want to kind of detail some of what I learned, but this is not the first poisoning by cyanide. So there's another case, and I might bring it up in a different video, but there's another case that happened in 2023 where allegedly a woman killed several of her friends and acquaintances in this area from cyanide poison. I believe there was about 12 victims. So I might bring it up. I might do a separate video. I'm not sure yet, but my interest is where are the reports about what happened? What information, what video was collected? What were the determinations? More details about the autopsies. What about the victims, right? We want to know who were these victims, right? That was my first thing. Eventually, something more is going to come out, and it just never happened. So I did a little bit more looking, and I'm going to go over it all in this video. So please take this time with me to learn more about cyanide poisoning. Let's learn more about the 6 victims slash the 6 deaths that happened in Thailand from the alleged cyanide poisoning, and maybe we can learn some stuff, right? So I'm going to start off. I have a article that I want to read. It's coming from nationthailand.com. It's titled, and it's from their news section. It's dated July 18th, 2024. And it's titled, Trust Can Be Deadly, says forensic doctor on cyanide poisoning. It says, easy access and trusting the wrong people may be fueling a disturbing trend of cyanide poisoning murders in Thailand. Okay. The toxic chemical, cyanide, is easy to find, and trust plays an important role in murder via food poisoning, an unidentified forensic doctor told Nation TV on Thursday. So they're saying that for these deaths to be occurring in Thailand specifically, you really have to trust the person to eat their food because they have had several deaths through cyanide poisoning. Okay. And you have to trust the person, you have to know them in order to have these deaths because you're eating food that's served to you or is placed in a drink. Okay. The use of this chemical surfaced in two cases in Thailand recently. The first time cyanide was found to have been used was when the case of serial killer Sarah Ragenswuthaporn made the headlines in April. She was arrested on April 25th last year and charged with murdering up to 14 through cyanide poisoning. So this is the case I was talking about. I thought it was 12, but it's actually they're saying 14. I could have read a different article on her, and at that time it was 12 deaths attributed to cyanide poisoning by her allegedly. But it's the same case, okay? I might do something separate. Depends on the details. From what I was reading about her, I really didn't understand the why. Why was she allegedly poisoning so many of her friends and acquaintances with the cyanide? Like, for example, I was reading about a trip she had went on with a friend, and the person just collapsed and died. And I'm thinking, why? Why are you doing this? Why would you be harming your friends? I mean, you're taking their life. Is this just like you want to be a serial killer? Is this out of thrill? What are you getting out of this? I didn't really understand that angle. So I might look into her a little bit more. Um, I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. I have to do more research into her to figure out if that's a case that I want to bring. But let's continue the article. The use of this toxic chemical surfaced again this week when autopsy reports showed that the six people found dead in a room at Bangkok's Grand Hyatt Erewhon Hotel on Tuesday evening had been poisoned with the chemical. All six, three men and three women, were Vietnamese, though two were U.S. citizens. In both cases, police said the chemical had been given to the victims in food or drink. Traces of the chemical were found in teacups in the latest case. Though cyanide is characterized as a controlled chemical in Thailand, people can still purchase it quite easily for purposes like repelling snakes and monitor lizards. However, as per the Hazardous Substances Act, anybody caught producing, importing, exporting, or even possessing cyanide can face up to 2 years in prison and or a fine of up to 200,000 baht. So they're saying that if you're caught producing it, importing it, exporting it, or possessing it, you could go to prison for up to 2 years and face a fine okay? Explaining that, though, this chemical is no longer used in the medical industry, the forensic doctor said it can be found naturally in vegetables like cassava, while the synthetic version is used in oil-based polish and car radiator cleaners. So in my little research, I also found that it's in almonds, but it has to be the almonds that I believe are not sweetened, and you have to eat a lot of them, like 50. So I eat almonds, and I'm like, okay, I do eat the sweetened almonds, but I want to watch that intake because I don't, when I eat them as part of like a mix. So I might eat maybe 3 to 5 at a time. So, you just want to watch that intake. Synthetic cyanide plays an important role in daily life, he said, adding that the chemical is so easy to find that it is even included in science kits that can be purchased at stationery stores. He added that traces of cyanide can easily be detected during autopsy, adding that in the most recent case, the victims were possibly given cyanide spiked tea. Another crucial factor in murders through food poisoning becoming successful is trust. We won't eat food offered by strangers, but will always accept it from people who we know. So, trust plays a big part in food poisoning, he said. And that's why it's hidden horror, right? It's hidden horror right here. Gotta go on the other side. It's hidden horror right here, right? Because would you think that somebody would poison you that you trust, that you know? Probably not. Okay. So that's one of the articles that I want to bring. Um, I want to go over a short video. Well, it's not short, it's about 10 minutes long. It talks about how when cyanide enters your body, how it actually kills you. And I think this is important because we know about the deaths, but we really don't know how cyanide works. And I think it's important to kind of flush some of this information out. I'm also going to show you two other videos, and I have another article. But the two other videos, they're going to talk specifically about the 6 deaths in Thailand. And then my last article is going to talk about those 6, if you want to call them victims, or the 6 people that passed away. It's going to talk a little bit more about them. So I want to just go over this because they're not giving us any new information. And this is information that I didn't know. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to share this video. So let me share my screen. It's going to talk about cyanide. Okay. Enlarge it. So the video is titled "Why Getting Naked Can Help You Survive Cyanide Poisoning." The video is by the Infographics Show. I'm going to enlarge here. We'll start from the beginning.
Cyanide can be incredibly deadly at very small doses. This is why it's been used throughout history as a poison in warfare, genocide, and murder. Cyanide is a naturally occurring chemical found in some foods. In fact, at some point in your life, you almost certainly have ingested cyanide. So, why aren't you dead? Let's find out. In nature, cyanide is most commonly found in the seeds of plants. Some of the more common foods that have cyanide in them are cassava, lima beans, and almonds. You've probably eaten at least one of these foods, if not all of them. So, why aren't you dead, or at least incredibly sick? The answer has to do with the amount of cyanide in each of the plants. However, even relatively small doses can be harmful in some cases. Cyanide can be found as a colorless gas, such as hydrogen cyanide, or in crystalline form like sodium cyanide or potassium cyanide. Regardless of whether cyanide is a gas or a solid, it's still deadly. However, when cyanide is in its gaseous state, it is faster acting due to having direct access to your cardiovascular system. People have died from breathing in cyanide, consuming the poison, and even from it leaching through their skin into the bloodstream.
Under Kamala Harris's plan, no one making less than $400,000 would pay a penny more in taxes.
People who work in industrial factories or jobs that require them to be in close proximity to the poison are obviously more susceptible to dying from cyanide. However, even if you live in the countryside away from any factories, you could still be at risk. The most common source of cyanide poisoning for people outside of industrial factories that use chemicals is from smoking cigarettes. Cigarettes contain trace amounts of cyanide. However, when someone lights up a cigarette, they're releasing the poison into the air. So if someone is chain smoking, maybe stay a few steps away to reduce your own exposure to the poison they're exhaling. It's important to note, again, that cyanide in its gaseous state is more deadly than its solid form. However, since the gas is relatively light, it tends to rise and disperse quickly. So how does cyanide kill you? To understand this question, you'll have to think back to your high school biology class. If you remember nothing else from the class, you probably remember the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Cyanide disrupts your mitochondrial powerhouses and causes you to die from lack of energy. At a basic level, your mitochondria takes sugar from the food you eat and the oxygen from the air you breathe and reassembles them into energy, carbon dioxide, and water. This is called cellular respiration. The most important part of the process is the production of energy. Without it, you literally cannot survive. When cyanide enters the body, it diffuses into the cells and starts connecting itself to the proteins in the mitochondria that strip the electrons from oxygen molecules to make energy. Once the cyanide is bound to the protein, your mitochondria can no longer function as it should. You can think of it as the cyanide becoming an inhibitor for the mitochondria. The cyanide keeps the mitochondria from being able to take the electrons off the oxygen molecules and use them to produce the energy your cells and body needs to function. It should come as no surprise that organs use a lot of energy, such as the heart and the brain, and they're affected first by cyanide. Your heart cells require a lot of energy to continuously pump the blood around your body. Your brain and nerve cells require massive amounts of energy to control all life functions happening within you. Regardless of which cell the cyanide gets into, the result is the same. The poison will shut down the energy-making process of the mitochondria and cause the cell to die due to lack of energy. Once enough critical cells in the body die this way, the end result is always the same. The person dies. So, how much cyanide is enough to kill you? There are a few factors that determine the amount, but it's never very much, since cyanide is incredibly toxic. As mentioned before, inhaling cyanide is much more dangerous than ingesting it through food or water. And although touching cyanide poses less of a risk, even skin contact with the poison can kill you. It's a very rough estimate, around half a gram of ingested cyanide is enough to kill a 160-pound adult. Obviously, depending on the person, the lethal dosage could be a little more or a little less. But either way, this is not a lot of cyanide when compared to the size of an adult human. If a lethal dose is inhaled or ingested, the poison immediately starts shutting down the energy generators of the body, and death occurs within minutes or even seconds. As would be expected, when energy production in the body stops, the symptoms of cyanide poisoning include dizziness, headaches, nausea, and weakness. Eventually, these symptoms develop into loss of consciousness, low blood pressure, slow heart rate, and respiratory failure. At this point, the next step is death. However, if caught early enough, some people do survive cyanide poisoning. Unfortunately, the lasting effects of the poison can be the development of Parkinson's disease, loss of muscle control, blindness, and other neurological disorders. Basically, if poisoned by cyanide, the end result is never pleasant. You may be wondering what to do in the precious moments after you realize you've been poisoned by cyanide. What steps can you take to save your life? The first thing to do is to get out of whatever area the source of the cyanide is coming from. Now, if you've ingested cyanide or some nefarious assassin has poisoned you, this is impossible to do. But if you notice you're being exposed to cyanide, you need to immediately leave the area. In its gaseous form, cyanide rises. So if you're in a room, you should get as close to the floor as possible and leave any enclosed space that might have cyanide in the air. Once out of the immediate area, you need to get naked. That's right, you should remove all clothing that could have been contaminated by the cyanide, because it could still enter your body through your skin. Once the clothing has been removed, it should be disposed of using safety equipment. After you left the area containing cyanide and removed your clothing, you should wash every part of your body thoroughly with soap and water. If you believe you've ingested cyanide, you need to stop it from being absorbed by your gastrointestinal tract as soon as possible. Medical personnel will most likely give you activated charcoal, which will bind to the cyanide and slow the absorption process. Once all immediate danger is taken care of, you'll be given a cyanide antidote. This will most likely contain amyl nitrate, sodium nitrate, and sodium thiosulfate. All of these chemicals have a stronger attraction for cyanide than the binding site of oxygen in the mitochondria. Therefore, they bind the cyanide before it can attach itself to the oxygen-binding protein that your mitochondria use to generate energy. Another chemical that's used to neutralize the cyanide is cobalt. Once the cyanide is bound to one of those antidote chemicals, it's excreted from your body in your urine. So, it's clear that death by cyanide would be a bad way to go. Cyanide has been used throughout history to kill enemies and commit atrocities. The use of cyanide as a weapon dates all the way back to the Franco-Prussian War in 1870. Napoleon III had his troops dip their bayonets in cyanide so that when it pierced the skin of an enemy, they would be.
I've held hands with patients when they've received the worst news of their lives. When something goes wrong,
poisoned. Cyanide was even given as a poison as far back as the Roman Empire. Emperor Nero would give his enemies cherry laurel water that contained cyanide. Cyanide was used in both world wars as well. In World War I, it was used by the French and Austrian troops as poison gas during trench warfare. In World War II, Nazi Germany used cyanide in their concentration camps. The deadly gas was known as Zyklon B and killed millions of people during the war. There's also reports of cyanide being used in the Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s, where hydrogen cyanide gas was used to kill Kurdish people in northern Iraq. Cyanide has been used by all sorts of deranged people for committing atrocities. In 1978, Reverend Jim Jones convinced over 900 people to drink punch laced with cyanide in what became known as the Jonestown Massacre. The leader of the cult died by a gunshot wound to the head instead of the poison, but the cyanide was just as deadly as the bullet. Cyanide's also an ongoing threat that's been employed by terrorist organizations to wreak havoc around the world. In 1982, a series of deaths due to cyanide poisoning occurred in Chicago. Someone had tampered with Tylenol bottles and replaced the medication in the capsules with potassium cyanide. 7 people died from the cyanide-laced capsules during the Chicago Tylenol murders. The authorities never charged or convicted a suspect in the poisonings. Another example of cyanide-related terrorism happened following the sarin gas attack by Aum Shinrikyo in the Japanese subway system in 1995. The organization planned on committing another act of terrorism using cyanide this time. It placed an agent containing cyanide in the bathrooms of the subway system. It was estimated that if released, there would have been enough gas to kill 10,000 people. Clearly, cyanide is deadly and has been used for terrible purposes. But this brings us back to the fact that it is naturally occurring in foods that we eat. Most people know that almonds contain the poison, yet we don't hear about cyanide-related deaths due to almond consumption. So, how many almonds do you have to eat before they become poisonous? The answer might be less than you think. There are 2 main varieties of almonds. There are the sweet almonds, which most of us enjoy eating, and bitter almonds, which are not consumed often. A 160-pound person would need to eat around 50 ounces of sweet almonds in order to be killed by the amount of cyanide that's contained within each one. This means someone would have to consume just over 1,100 almonds in a single sitting in order to ingest enough cyanide to kill them. The person would also have to refrain from urinating during this time so the cyanide could stay in their system. Therefore, death by cyanide from eating sweet almonds is very unlikely. But what about bitter almonds? This is where things become a little more surprising. Bitter almonds contain around 50 times more cyanide than sweet almonds. This means that around 50 bitter almonds would contain enough cyanide to kill you. Bitter almonds are not eaten often because, as their name suggests, they are bitter. But if someone had a craving for them and ate 50 kernels of the cyanide-containing nut, it's likely they would die from cyanide poisoning. Cyanide is a deadly chemical. It is dangerous because it is highly toxic in small amounts. It is practically odorless when in gaseous form, and it can also poison you from being ingested through your skin. Cyanide disrupts the energy-making process done in the mitochondria in your cells. This causes you to die from a lack of energy that's needed by your vital organs. Just make sure next time you eat a bag of almonds that they're sweet instead of bitter. Now check out most deadly elements on Earth, or why.
Okay, so I think you got the message about the cyanide. We're going to move on and move off of that. So I have 2 more videos, and then I have 1 more article that I want to go over. So I think what I'm going to do is do the videos because the article will flush out more. So I'm going to share my screen, and I have 2 videos. Okay, the videos are fairly short. They're like 2 minutes each. This video is by ABC News Australia. It's titled 6 Vietnamese Nationals Die of Cyanide Poisoning in Bangkok Hotel, ABC News. So let's listen to this because I want to, bring us back to the story of the 6 that died in Thailand from the cyanide poisoning, allegedly.
Well, the details are still emerging about this bizarre and disturbing case, but a hospital here in Bangkok has now confirmed what police had already suspected, that these 6 Vietnamese nationals who were found dead in a 5-star hotel room in Bangkok on Tuesday were poisoned with cyanide. They found traces of the poison on teacups and thermoses in the room, and the bodies also had the telltale signs of cyanide poisoning: black lips and black fingernails. Police believe that it was one of the members of the group that was responsible for this mass poisoning, that this was a murder-suicide effectively, but it's not clear how they obtained the poison, whether or not they purchased it here in Thailand or brought it into the country from Vietnam. So no doubt that will form part of the investigation, as will the motive. Police believe at this stage that the motive possibly has something to do with an investment scheme gone bad. You see, 2 members of the group, a husband and wife, had apparently invested a significant amount of money, about 400,000 Australian dollars, with another 2 members of the group to help build a hospital in Japan. It's understood they wanted their money back and that this dispute had been ongoing for some time. So they all agreed to come here to Bangkok to try to resolve it. Now, 2 members of the group also hold US passports. So members of the FBI are actually coming to Thailand from America to help with this investigation and hopefully find some answers, not only for the families of the victims, but for everyone here in Bangkok who is so shocked and so rattled that such a horrendous crime could happen right in the heart of the city.
Okay, so that's the first video. So I have to share my screen again to show you the second video. This video is by CNA. It's titled Cyanide Found in Teacups, shared by 6 foreigners found dead in Bangkok hotel.
Police in Thailand say they have detected traces of cyanide in the bodies of 6 foreigners found yesterday in a room in a luxury Bangkok hotel. Authorities are calling the incident a murder-suicide, with the culprit possibly amongst the dead. Full pathology results are expected before the end of the week. CNA's Success Sasambat with this report.
A day after the shocking discovery of 6 dead foreign guests in a hotel room in central Bangkok, Thai police are almost certain about what exactly has happened as they're piecing the puzzle pieces together. Even though a final conclusion is pending, all signs point towards a murder-suicide. In a press briefing on Wednesday, police investigators say that the 6 hotel guests have entered Thailand across a time span of 2 weeks, each checking into separate rooms before all ending in one suite at the same hotel. There was a 7th person in the original booking who turns out to be a relative of one of the victims, but has left the country almost a week before this incident.
So I want to pause right here and just say this. So allegedly, all of the people that passed away, they had individual hotel rooms. The last day, they all went to this one room and they were going to have this lunch. And this is where the deaths occurred, in the one hotel room. Now, there's going to be a part where they speak in a different language and they transcribe it over to English. So I will read that because it's going to be written.
On the last day, that's Tuesday, the 6 ordered room service, including hot water for tea. One of the guests insisted to hotel staff to brew the tea themselves. It's in that moment, investigators say, that's when one of the guests laced the flasks with cyanide, which was later found in everyone's teacups. Autopsy results have also found traces of cyanide in all 6 victims' bodies. According to CCTV footage, no other...
I think this is a graph of the hotel room. It's in another language, so I can't read it, but I think these are the names of the victims, the 6 victims on the right. And then I think they're placing where their bodies were found. So it appears to be 2 found in a bedroom here. And then I believe there was like a living area where some were found there.
Other person either entered the room after the room service, nor did anybody leave the room until all 6 victims were found dead by housekeeping on Tuesday early evening. Therefore, police are concluding that one of the victims was also the one who poisoned everyone before taking their own life in the same way. As for the motive, police point to a possible conflict among the 6 over large sums of money that was supposed to be used in the construction of a hospital in Japan. The 2 conflicting parties then agreed to meet in Bangkok to settle things, ending in everyone's demise. However, that link has not been fully explored yet. Police are insisting that this was...
And see, because they're saying that there may be this financial link, this financial issue, that there was supposed to be a hospital built, that some of the people wanted their money returned. I would like to get an update on that information. Is this accurate information? What was the result of the investigation? And do they really know that the 6 that were found deceased were all involved, or was there others involved? I know at one point someone left the trip about a couple of days before the incident allegedly. So, what is the result of that? Who was that? Why did they leave? What were they there for? Did they notice anything? Did they see anything? Did they hear anything? Were they a part of conversations? I would like an update, but it just has not happened. And I think it's due to tourism. I think that they want people to come into this area. They want people to feel safe. They want people to feel secure. They want people to travel, visit. And for the tourist sake, they're not going to address what happened any further in the media. That's my opinion, but I'll let it continue.
Was an isolated case among the victims themselves.
ก็ขอยืนยันว่านะครับประเทศไทยเรายังเป็นเมืองที่น่าท่อง
So this person is the deputy commissioner for the Thai Metropolitan Police, and he's making a statement. His name is Nopansin Pusawat.
เที่ยวยังมี
He says, I want to insist that Thailand is still an attractive travel destination with every kind of security, regardless of the recent incident that
ควา
has
มปลอดภัยอยู่ทุกประการนะครับเหตุที่เกิดขึ้นนะครับไม่ว่าเคสที่บางรัฐที่เกิดขึ้นมารวมถึงเคส
happened. It is an isolated case and does not link to any organized crimes that have taken place in Thailand.
นี้นะครับเป็นเรื่องส่วนตัวทั้งสิ้นนะครับไม่เกี่ยวกับองค์กรอาชญากรรมที่มาก่อเหตุในเมืองไทยแต่อย่างใดนะครับ
Tourism is an important pillar of Thailand's economy, so this is why the government and authorities are going at lengths to emphasize this to be only an isolated incident. What started out as a mystery death of 6 foreign hotel guests appears to be a quarrel, a fight among Vietnamese countrymen and countrywomen with fatal consequences. Saksit Sombat, CNA, Bangkok.
But we don't know that. We don't know. We don't know what happened. We don't know why it happened. We don't know who did it or if there was more than one person involved. We just don't have those answers. So I'm going to, because my screen is frozen, I'm going to pull up the last article that I want to go over. It's by the BBC News. They did a great job detailing information about the victims. So I just want to have a picture up so you're just not looking at me being frozen. So I'm going to share my screen. And this was the actual food that was set out, and you can see that it had not, some of it had not even been uncovered. So let me start with this article. I'm pulling it up. One moment, please. So it's on bbc.com. It's dated July 19th, 2024. It's titled Cyanide Teacups in Room 502, Mystery of the Bangkok Hotel Deaths. Is by Joel Guinto and BBC Vietnamese Service. There was little to indicate what had happened on the 5th floor of the Grand Hyatt Erewhon in Bangkok until police officers opened the door. No one was heard to scream or had rung for help. No one had even made it to the door. So they're saying that there was no indications of the deaths. How they learned of the deaths is they did not check out of this room. But they didn't know. They didn't hear anything. There were no screams. There was no ring for help, for assistance. No one knew what had happened, okay? Even inside, there were apparently no signs of struggle. The untouched late lunch still laid out neatly on the table for the occupants to enjoy. So you can see the plates, the spoons, you can see the cups of water. Again, food that has not even been uncovered and appearing not to have been touched, right? From outside of room 502, the only clue to the horror inside the locked room was the fact the group were late checking out of the hotel. And yet inside were 6 bodies alongside teacups laced with cyanide. It didn't take officers long to work out the occupants of the room had drunk the poisoned tea or to find out who the apparent victims were. Remember, they said that the lips turn black, the fingers turn black, right? When there's a cyanide poisoning? Indicators, right? That we can look to. But days after police revealed the grim discovery, big questions remain. Why them? And who did it? Who did this to them, right? So I'm going to scroll down because we have a picture. Okay. And they're saying that that is makeup artist Dean Tran Phu. 4 of the victims are Vietnamese nationals: Thai Nguyen Phung, 46, her husband Hung Pham Tan, 49, Thai Nguyen Phung Lan, 47, and Dean Tran Phu, 37. So Mr. Phu in this picture, he was 37 years old. He's very young, right? The other 2 are American citizens of Vietnamese origin, Shireen Chong, 56, and Dong Hung Van, 55. According to investigators, Chong was believed to have borrowed 10 million baht. That would be equivalent to 280,000 US dollars or 215,000 euros from husband and wife Hong Pham Tan and Thai Nguyen Phung to invest in a hospital building project in Japan. The couple, who owned a construction business, had apparently tried in vain to get their money back. So they're saying the married couple, they allowed Chong to borrow 10 million baht, and this was going to be an investment in a project for a hospital in Japan. However, at some point they wanted the money back. In fact, the matter was due to go to court in Japan in a matter of weeks. So there's some type of legal activity going on. This was going to come up in a few weeks, okay? On the face of it, this meeting appeared to be an attempt to discuss the issue in advance of the case. Thai Nguyen Phung Lan was there because Chong, who U.S. media have said lived in Oakland, California, had asked her to act as her intermediary with the couple regarding the investment. But how were the other 2 linked to the case? Dean Tran Phu, a successful makeup artist whose clientele includes movie stars, singers, and beauty queens in Vietnam, was at the gathering working for Chong. His father, speaking to BBC Vietnamese, emphasized the fact he had traveled to Thailand with his regular clients, not with strangers. A close friend, meanwhile, said he knew both Thai Nguyen Phung and Thai Nguyen Phung Lan, having introduced them to treatments at a friend's spa in Da Nang, where he lived. Dong Hung Van's participation in the hotel suite meeting was not immediately clear. Police said there was a seventh name in the hotel reservation, the sister of one of the six. That person returned to Vietnam from Thailand last week, and police said she was not involved in the incident. The group checked into the hotel separately over the weekend and were assigned 5 rooms, 4 on the 7th floor and 1 on the 5th floor. Chong checked into room 502 on Sunday. The 5 others visited her in her suite that day, but they headed back to their respective rooms for the night. Before noon on Monday, Dong Hung Van ordered 6 cups of tea, while Dean Tran Fu, the makeup artist, ordered fried rice from their respective rooms. They asked that it be delivered to room 502 at 14:00 local time. A few minutes before 14:00, Chung started receiving the food orders at room 502. She was alone in the suite at the time. Police said she refused the waiter's offer to brew tea for her party. The waiter also found that she spoke very little and was visibly under stress. The rest of the group started arriving soon after. The couple went in lugging a suitcase. At 14:17, all 6 could be seen by the door before it was shut. From then on, there was no sign of movement from inside. They had been scheduled to check out on Monday but failed to do so. Police entered the room at 16:30 on Tuesday and found the 6 deceased on the floor. So I'm going to scroll down because they have a little placement of everybody. The initial investigation found that 2 appeared to have tried to get to the suite's door but failed to reach in time. All the bodies bore signs of cyanide poisoning, which can, in certain doses, kill within minutes. Their lips and nails had turned dark purple, indicating a lack of oxygen, while their internal organs turned blood red, which is another sign of cyanide poisoning. Investigators said there is no other cause that would explain their deaths except for cyanide. Further tests are being carried out to determine the intensity of the deadly chemical and to rule out any other toxins. Cyanide starves the body's cells of oxygen, which can induce heart attacks. Early symptoms include dizziness, shortness of breath, and vomiting. Its use in Thailand is heavily regulated, and those found to have unauthorized access face up to 2 years in jail. Police suspect that one of the deceased was behind the poisoning and was driven by crushing debt, but have not said who. According to Vietnamese outlet VN Express, investigators said Chong had been sued by all the other 5 over their failed investments. The meeting in Bangkok was called to negotiate a settlement, but the attempt failed. Mystery surrounds deaths at Grand Hyatt Hotel in Bangkok. Police have sought a statement from the group's tour guide in Bangkok, 35-year-old Phan Ngak Vu. The guy reportedly said that before she died, Thai Nguyen Phung Lan, the mediator, had asked someone to buy traditional medicine containing snake blood for her joint pains. Then there are the two metal beverage containers that did not belong to the hotel found by police in the suite. The containers were placed beside the cyanide laced teacups near the dining table. What is certain is that officials want the matter resolved quickly. Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh has directed officials in Hanoi to coordinate closely with their Thai counterparts on the investigation. As for Thai authorities, it couldn't have come at a worse time for Thailand. It had just expanded visa-free entry to 93 countries to revive its tourism industry, a key economic pillar that has yet to fully recover from the pandemic. Barely a year before, a 14-year-old boy shot dead two people at a luxury shopping mall, also in Bangkok. Prime Minister Saratha Thavisin was with police on the scene at the Grand Hyatt on Tuesday night. He said there was no danger to public safety and that it was a private matter. For the families left behind, the shock is palpable. BBC Vietnamese got hold of the makeup artist's mother too on the phone, but she was sobbing so uncontrollably that she hung up after a short conversation. She said she thought her son was just on a routine work trip. His father, Tran Ding Dong, said in a separate interview that he did not notice anything strange with his son the last time that he saw him. You know, it's extremely unfortunate that we just don't have a lot of answers for the family. I hope that more details come out, more confirmations, more questions are answered. I'm going to keep following the story. I don't know how much more I'll be able to uncover, but I am looking into it. So I want to thank you for spending this time with me. I really, really appreciate it. I want to remind you to stay safe, stay smart, stay savvy. Be well, all my friends, and happy Halloween. Bye, everybody.